I would actually say that realtors, believe it or not, would take a lower offer with clean financing and clean closing terms. But I'm not talking about you guys, but everybody else, right? But I'll bet you they would turn down a higher offer with more creative financing and that, which is a shame because I think that there's an opportunity to educate realtors on how creative financing options work.
So we grew up in real estate and we were always taught this notion that it's never a money issue. It's always about finding the deal. And if you find the deal, the money follows you or finds you. Mm-hmm. Now, in certain points, that could be true. I think it is majority true. But why is learning the skill of raising capital so important?
Because it's true that if you find the deal, the money will follow. But you got to find the money before you find the deal, in that you've got to at least begin your investor conversations, your private lender conversations, whatever it is, because the closing timeline that exists in the world today does not allow for you to go forge new relationships with people. You don't have that luxury. It's like, I'll just kick the can down the road and I'll close when I do. And that you've got to have those investors lined up and those conversations lined up and all that. Maybe not money in the bank, maybe not people with their checkbooks out or anything like that, but at least know who you're going to call when you got a deal.
Yeah.
That's how the money follows. And that's why raising private capital is important to begin before you start searching for deals, but maybe not necessarily for people to actually pull out their checkbook, but at least to begin the trust conversations and dissolve a lot of the boundaries they may have before you need the money. Yeah. So that's why I think it's important.
Yeah. One thing I would add on to that is that it allows you to think a lot bigger. Because if you have the capacity to raise money, then you're not thinking about the onesie twosie. You're thinking about how big can I actually make this.
Yeah. Unless you won the lottery, man, at some point, every investor I can think of, from Warren Buffett to Sam Zell to somebody just getting started in real estate investing, is going to eventually need to use somebody else's money for their business. Everyone eventually needs investors. Everyone eventually is going to get diluted somehow or another by having somebody come and win alongside you or whatever. It can never be with your own money, always, unless you want to grow. Let's try to play small.
Yeah.
Right. Say that,
Well, money's only created when there's an interaction or exchange between two people, no matter what. Yeah. So it's going to be involving those people to play.
And I mean, you could build it with your own cash. Like I could go do a single family home, invest in it, take the cash flow, squirrel it away, flip it out, sell it take the proceeds and sell it one day and save up my paycheck. And then maybe eventually buy a triplex and then do the same thing there. And then maybe retire when I'm 65 and have like a portfolio of 4 to 5 residential units. Or I can get creative on my financing, start using private investors, start using private lenders, do the BRRRR strategy, do all those things that allow for creativity and alternative ways to finance stuff. And maybe take in some investors. And I could retire with a lot more than 10 units when I retire. And so I have a lot more control of units, and I can expand a lot more quickly if I'm raising private capital.
Yeah, 100%. So being majority of the audience is realtors, and a lot of the times realtors will end up finding deals. The limiting belief is that, how am I going to do this? I don't have the money. And they end up giving it to an investor.
If they even think that far ahead. Sometimes they don't even think about doing it themselves.
Yeah, they just give it to
you. I was at an event it was an EXP event last week, and Kyle Whistle was speaking. He's one of our sponsors at our brokerage. And what he said was, stop giving the deals away to the investors. You need to be the investor. Yeah. Sorry, jumped in there.
No worries. The question I have for you is someone listening to this saying, okay, well, how do I raise private capital so I can start funding these deals myself? How would you educate that individual?
I'll back you up even further, right? Yeah. Realtors, I think a lot of realtors believe the way the deal gets funded is with a traditional mortgage broker that expects you to have a W-2 job and reasonable amount of savings and everything like that. That mortgage broker steps in and they provide one leg of the financing, and then the buyer is going to have to write a check for the other leg of the financing. That is the only way a deal gets funded. That's it. Because I've talked to realtors a million times about other creative ways to finance a deal. Like, you guys mentioned that you guys have interviewed Pace Morby, right? So let's use him as an example. I'm sure Pace on a regular basis has to educate realtors on how subject to works. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I'm going to buy the property, but I'm going to buy it subject to their mortgage. You can't do that. That's illegal, right? I mean, like all kinds of wacky stuff that comes in or whatever. And go even further to say, like, I've looked at properties that were free and clear. and I've gone to the realtor and said, hey, here's the deal. I'm going to buy it, but your client, your seller is going to finance the deal for me because they've got this free and clear property. So how much money do they need now? And how much money can I pay them over time? That is like a head exploding question to a realtor. Like, no, he needs all the money right now, and everything like that. It's like, no, I bet you he needs a part of it now. Maybe let's just say 20% of the purchase price right now. I can get him that. What if I paid him the other 80% over the next 5 years? The biggest thing a realtor could do, and this opens it up to them too, to get involved on the investor side of the game, is for them to realize there's so many different ways that real estate can get financed for them to, and that allows them to do deals too, to participate and have those conversations about sub-2, seller financing, creative financing, installment sales, all kinds of crazy stuff that ends up coming in that we as investors know how to use all the time. But realtors either don't know that it can get used in that, and that will prohibit a bit on their transaction volume by roadblocking deals that investor wants to get creative on, number one. But also maybe they can do more deals themselves by using the same creative tactics that we're using. There's no reason why I can buy deals with no money down, but a realtor can't do that. If I can do no money down, then they should allow me to do it as a buyer, but also they should be able to learn those tactics from us to do it too.
Yeah. No,
I think unfortunately we're in a business where there's so much ego and there's so much, like how many times have we all been in a situation where you're maybe representing the buyer and you go to the listing agent and you say, would your seller agree to this? Even if it wasn't even creative financing, you're just trying to negotiate a home inspection item. Would your seller agree to $10,000? And their immediate response is, they'll never agree to that. It's like, well, like you said, roadblocking the deal. It's like, well, hold on a second. Let's just sort of work through this together. And they're sort of making decisions for the seller. So I can only imagine, I mean, I as a buyer's agent haven't presented too many creative financing strategies myself to listing agents, but I imagine before they even understand what you're offering, a lot of people are just getting in the way.
Yeah.
I would actually say that realtors, believe it or not, would take a lower offer with clean financing and clean closing terms, like just straight equity coming across the table and a financing from a mortgage broker that they've heard of or that they know of or whatever, versus somebody coming in with like even like hard money. They don't get how that works or everything like that. And so I know you guys are realtors, so I'm saying this with love. But I'm not talking about you guys, I'm talking about everybody else, right? But I'll bet you they would turn down a higher offer with more creative financing and that, which is a shame because I think that there's an opportunity to educate realtors on how creative financing options work.
100%. Yeah. I was thinking about the deal that you were telling me about that you were considering buying, Union City, $3 million or so. It was an older woman and she had no mortgage or no debt on it, I think is under my understanding. And we were trying to think of a creative way for Kiro to buy it. And I mean, if you think of somebody like that, they have a $3 million asset. If she sells it this year, right, her gain is going to be $3 million in 1 year. But if you can find a creative way to do it in installments, like you said, or maybe do some seller financing where she receives a portion of the money today and a portion of the money over the next 2 years, then it's actually a benefit to the seller if it's presented the right way, or if that's what she would like, right, to take that gain over a couple different years.
Realtor ain't having it.
But you're going to blow that realtor's mind.
But that's what's important about finding out what's important to the seller, because it's not about the money, it's what the money does for them. And she was older and she wanted to set her son up. So like having something that was residual for him, and he was an attorney that couldn't manage the property. So like having that baked in there was enticing for her. Did
that go through?
It's in the process of being worked out. Okay. There's some issues with the attorney who's getting involved in there.
Yeah, that's another one. That'd be a whole nother episode on attorneys. Yeah, on the attorneys jacking deals up. We could tell a lot of battle stories on that as well. But it's also an opportunity to educate. It's an opportunity for an investor because like I've also had deals go through that were with some semblance of creativity or just some semblance of, hey, listen, trust me, I'll make it work with the realtors. You do that one time, they get it, they see you know what you're doing, and you've educated them a little bit. And obviously they're going to bring a deal that's got a little bit of hair on it to us investors first, because they know we know how to get creative on stuff. And now they know it works. Yeah. So it's a way to create a raving fan.
Yeah. You said buy property, no money down.
Yes.
Can you break us down that formula for us?
Because I think your average realtor who's hearing that is saying, well, how does that work?
What? That means no commission.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Yeah. no money down. I'll redefine no money down, right? Because no money down kind of has a bad connotation to it. Like, well, it means like 100% financing. That means 100% seller financing. That means a lot of risk. It doesn't have to be no money down. No money down really means no money out of the buyer's pocket. So that no money down, I've done dozens of deals, no money down, but that means like my investors or my hard money lenders or whatever might have funded 100% of the purchase, including closing costs, right? To me, that's no money down. I mean, I walk into a lot of my closings with nothing but a pen and a smile, because I'm able to do it with some sort of creative financing piece on the other side of it. So people need to think about no money down in the realm of none of your money down. Could be investors' money, could be hard money lenders' money, could be seller financing money, or a combination thereof.
Yeah. I'm looking at a deal right now. Let's just use round numbers. 400 purchase price is 300,000, needs very little reno. And I think it's worth like 425 or so. So I actually called my lender and I was like, who do you know that I could go to for a good hard money lender? Because he's a traditional lender. And I was talking to him, I was like, who do I go to for hard money? And I've got a few references, but I was just wondering who his guy was. And I could hear his wheels spinning. And he's like, well, how much do you need? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's depending on how you look at it. If it's
what you say, right?
Yeah, it was like, so I was like, it could be like 300 or 400. And he's like, well, I could do that. I would consider doing that. And I'm like, all right. So then I go back to my desk and I'm running my numbers. And I'm like, you know what? What if I go to a hard money lender for the 80%, right? And then I use my lender who offered to potentially do a deal if he liked it as my private lender. And now I'm sitting there going, because if I structure it that way, I could do 4 or 5 of these or wherever he taps out to set it up like you were talking about, right? Maybe you're bringing the majority of it from a hard money lender and the down payment and some of your carrying costs from your private lender.
Yeah. Well, I'll go one step further, right? Let's play creative financing bingo here, right? I've done a JV where, because here's what can happen in situations like that. A lot of times that money has to come in second position or has to come in behind a first position mortgage. We did a deal where we built 3 townhouses from scratch. And I had a first position mortgage from my banker that gave us money to buy the land. And then he gave us the construction dollars on top, right? But I needed, this is a $890,000 project all in. I needed $210,000 worth of equity to do the deal, right? I didn't want to write that check. So I got an investor. Here's what we do. So the investor, because the bank was not okay, their 600 and some change was going to be in the deal. They did not want to see a second behind it, right? They didn't want to subordinate that. I've seen people get, funky with this and this is a game you can play where you close on the purchase on Tuesday. Everybody's nice and clean and you don't file the lien on the second until Thursday or something like that. The bank's not at the table. You file it separately. To me, that's out of integrity in that may come up and whatnot. So instead of me filing a secondary lien behind the bank later, what we decided to do was I decided to do a JV. So I had an investor that had a self-directed IRA, which is my favorite place to get money all day long. So he had a self-directed IRA. And I said, I need $210,000 for the deal. And I need $80,000 worth of just operating cash to make this happen. So I need $290 all in. He had a self-directed IRA come into it. And I said, I'm going to give you 8% on your money, right? And because you're taking a risk, because you're in second position and I can't collateralize the property and give you a lien, but what I will do is I will give you percentage of upside and I'll protect your interest through a JV agreement that I'm going to personally guarantee. And I'm going to reference the deal. I'm going to reference everything that we're doing here. His lawyer wrote up the JV agreement. I pretty much signed my life away to this guy, right? And he put up $290K and that came into second position. He gave it to me he wired the money to me the day before closing to my company operating account. And we closed the deal. And in 10 months, we built those townhomes and sold them, right? And this guy, because he got a chunk of upside, he got 15% of the profit. He got 8% on his money plus 15% of upside. Yeah. That guy made 45% on his money in 10 weeks, 10 months, right?
Wow.
Crazy. So you can also give an invest. So what I would do is I would turn that around and say, okay, to your banker friend, I would say, okay, I'm going to go hard money first, probably 12 plus 3. But then I'm going to get you to bankroll me and kind of be my partner here, be my silent partner. And it sounds like you got 300 to 400K you're trying to put to work. Well, what if I gave you a little slice of upside? I might have given more away than I needed to.
Mhm.
The only thing is that you needed to, you got to be doing flips. You can't do it on, I would not do that kind of thing on Burr deals. If it were a Burr deal, I just pay him a higher rate of return and just make sure I can get him out at refinance.
You want to be able to get him out, and so that you can capitalize on the upside.
I don't want partners on small deals like that.
Right.
You know, I don't need him, because we're going to send him a check for a couple $100 every quarter or something like that. I mean, I want him gone.
It's a lot more clean.
I want to have all the keys to the kingdom on a small bird deal like that. But for a big multifamily apartment building, it's a little different. But for a deal like that, if you're going to flip it, he could do very well and bridge and allow you to do, like you said, 4 times more deals.